Thank you for joining us on The Trenches. It's a Heal Outreach podcast. I'm here with Matthew Johnson. He's
Hello.
with Steps to Freedom. Today we're going to have just an organic conversation that we're going to talk about a couple topics. But first, we're going to get some of the promotional stuff out of the way. If you could like, subscribe, or share this podcast, you can do it on Apple, Google Podcasts, Spotify. You can follow us on all the major social media platforms. That's Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. If you'd like to send us an email, you can email us at info@healoutreach, or even if you want to call in and discuss a topic with us, or even recommend a topic or request a topic, you can call us at 727-251-9123, and we'll throw in some links in the description. I hand it over to Matt so he can tell us a little bit about Steps to Freedom and why he's here today.
All right, my name is Matthew Johnson, and I started Steps to Freedom. You can find my YouTube channel, Steps to Freedom 7. That's 2 with the TO. We also have a Facebook page and a private Facebook page that you can send friend requests to if you want to be a part of that. Steps to Freedom basically helps you get into recovery, spirituality, and Christianity. Some of my YouTube videos have you go through the 12 steps. And so if you're not actually available to have a sponsor, or if you're new to it and you want to see what the 12 steps are about, you can go on there, and it's like having a personal sponsor at your fingertips. That's kind of the whole thing with Steps to Freedom. And I'll give it back to you to kind of introduce the rest.
All right, awesome. All right, so today we're going to talk about Heal Outreach as well here. And those of you that have been following us, kind of why we've shifted a little bit regarding our calling and purpose, and why we felt like God is really moving us in this direction. A little bit about me. We got into the prison ministry because I did 10 years in prison. And if you'd like to know more about, kind of my testimony and everything, you can listen to some previous podcasts. But after the 10 years in prison, I started following God after some ups and downs in life, and went into the prison ministry because I thought I could, be used by God and really be able to help people in the prisons. But then God showed me that the need was out here for the people that were transitioning from prison. And it's crazy because there was this moment where I was just driving and God was like, well, I want you to buy some supplies for the homeless and give them out. And I'm like, but that has nothing to do with the prison ministry. I was like, well, do I do this? And I just kept on praying about it and kind of ignoring it. But then God really kept on repeating that voice, go buy these supplies and do this. And really that's what started where the trajectory of where we're going right now. We're working in the communities more, going out, doing outreach, helping those that are homeless, in addiction, those that have been abused, really just trying to reach the demographic of people that have been marginalized and stigmatized. They're being left out by society. I think there are some good people out there that are doing some great things and being able to be a voice for that set of people. But I think as a society, we could be doing a lot better. We're trying to, be a bigger voice in the community and, just share the love of Jesus with people. And some people just want to be seen and heard. So we're going out there and talking to people. It may just be a bag of supplies or food, but to them, it's prayer and connection with people who they thought stopped caring about them.
And for people who don't know, Heal Outreach, before they started helping people with addiction or different traumas, they were only helping ex-offenders and people getting out of jails and prisons. And do you want to mention a little bit about why did you want to really start that? I know some other people probably heard on your prior podcasts or different little testimonies you've given, they might have heard it, but some people, just in case, are brand new, might not really know. How did you even get into the position of even wanting to help ex-offenders and people getting out of prison and jail?
So, like I said, I did 10 years, and I I was one of those people that said I will never go back to prison. I made sure throughout the years, even though I wasn't following God, I did the right thing and was good and stayed out of prison. And it was when I turned my life back over to God and really started seeking Him and following Christ that I felt like He was telling me, you need to go in and, you know, volunteer at least once just to see how it is. And so when I went in to volunteer, it was not what I was expecting. Like I was expecting, anxiety and being just nervous and maybe even anger or rage, going back in there. But it was like when those gates started rolling open, I felt peace walking through. And that's when I knew this was all God, because like the flesh part of me would have been just a wreck walking through with PTSD and everything that, I suffered throughout the years. Going through and then just seeing God move in my life and the organization that we were volunteering with, it's a big organization, and the CEO happened to just out of 70 volunteers, happened to just come straight towards us and sit down in front of us and was like, hey, I don't know you, why don't you tell me your story? And then when I talked to him for a little bit, he was like, wow, you have such a story that could impact a lot of people outside of the prisons. Like, we have so many people going inside the prisons, but there's almost nobody outside the prisons that are really speaking up for your demographic. It really was on my mind, my heart for like the next couple days after I left that prison. And I was just like, man, I feel like God's telling me to do something. Sat there and I had a notebook in front of me and I'm sitting there. At the time I was writing out a prayer, and then the name Heal came up, and I was like, well, that means something. So I'm like, God, what does that mean? And I looked at the letters and it was helping ex-offenders acclimate and live. So that's where we started, is with the heart to help people getting out of prisons, whether it be man or woman, getting out, that we're helping them reconnect to society, helping to bridge and be able to connect with their families again. Because there's a lot of times where people that have been in prison, they burnt those bridges.
Right.
And they're not with their families anymore, and that they feel left alone, which is why the percentage of people that reoffend is so high. It's because a lot of them don't have a support system. So once that name came into play, I knew that was from God, and immediately just started filling out the paperwork, become a nonprofit, because I felt like that's where God wanted us to be. And then filled out the paperwork for a nonprofit status with the IRS, and everything went smoothly. I was like, man, this has to be from God, because I knew like we were approved within 2 weeks of as a registered nonprofit with the IRS, and I was like, anybody can get, like only God can get the IRS to move fast,
Right.
because there was like a waiting period. They said of at least 6 months.
Wow.
So within 2 weeks we were approved and we were up and running, and we had a couple people that kind of really just poured into us and helped us get started. It was just the right amount of donations would always come through. We started just helping people getting out of prison. But it, like I says, when God spoke to me and showed me like about the homeless, and me saying, well, what does that have to do with my ministry?
Right.
Then I realized that it's not my ministry, it's God's ministry.
Mm-hmm.
He wants to build his kingdom. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm listening to God, and I'll go do that. And then that's when we realized, like, more than half the people that we encountered were people that had been inside jails and institutions. They had been locked up before. So we were like, wow. My wife and I were just, all these people are suffering on the streets. A lot of them because they can't get jobs. They can't get a place to stay. Because, say, if you're a violent offender, you can't get an apartment.
Right.
So some can. And it took me years to be able to get onto a lease, to be able to get into an apartment. So we had to do what we had to do to be able to even live in an apartment somewhere. So we started helping people in and out of addiction, alcoholism, and homeless. Then what's crazy was then God moved in our lives and kind of opened doors for us to go to Mexico.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, well, what do I do about this ministry, that's up and going and growing? I'm like, do I shut it down? And I really prayed about it. And it took a while until all of a sudden my wife and I were on a beach praying together about whether we would actually go to Mexico. And it was like clear as day. God put it on my heart, like, you're going to Mexico. And it's like, okay, well, we're going to Mexico for a year at least. We went to Mexico. We learned a lot of things there, but it's crazy that after selling everything and uprooting our family to go to Mexico, he ended up bringing us right back. And it's crazy because when I prayed about going to Mexico, God also told me, don't close the ministry here and to keep the office. And, for us financially, that was a huge, even just to go to Mexico was a huge step because we were not able to pay for everything financially. Like, God provided everything financially. So I was like, I don't know how we're gonna pay for us being over in Mexico, but also us keeping the operations going here. And we were worried about who's gonna help us and everything. So we were over in Mexico, and doors started closing down. And one of my wife's, her dad had a medical emergency. So then we came back, and as the doors shut there, we came back after 5 months in Mexico. But we really learned a lot about community outreach down there that showed us kind of what God showed us, that what we were doing wrong here and how we could be a better help and how we could be a bridge from, say, the community, society, and the people that are struggling with and impacted by these issues, and also the church, bringing everything together so that people are able to regain their lives back. So that's kind of where we're at right now. That's why we kind of changed we're still helping ex-offenders, but
yeah,
it's on a broader scale now. We see that, there's people that are homeless that are dealing with that. They're not saying anything. And they're just living and accepting this lifestyle, but not realizing that there is a way and there is healing. It's funny that through Heal, it was originally helping ex-offenders acclimate and live. And we kind of removed that portion of it, and we made our core values after Heal is hope, encouragement, accountability, and love.
Oh, wow, that's good.
So we're really driving forward with those core values, making sure that, we are providing that hope and encouragement, but also holding people accountable.
Right.
So we're not just using the donations, just to give out and freely. We're being good stewards with God's money.
Right. There's a whole process that goes into it.
Yeah.
And so for the viewers that don't know, you guys are 100% donations only,
Yeah.
that you keep the ministry alive with and use all the funds. Is there some of the things you could tell us about what Heal Outreach does for, say, the ex-offender or the addict, or maybe someone that had different trauma? What services do you help, so that way maybe future donors or even current donors know where the money's going.
Or say the donation comes in and we have somebody that we're working with that's getting out of prison, right? The main thing is getting them supplies because the prison's not getting them anything to live off of. So you get out, and if you don't have any family or support system, they have literally nothing.
I think they give you like $50 now
Yeah.
once you get out of prison if you have nothing on your books.
And right now, the way the economy is, like that,
Yeah.
that's not going to get you anything.
No.
Like you're
That's like 2 Ubers.
couple meals or something.
Yeah.
You know? So our goal is to be able to provide them, with clothing, food, shelter. If say we're helping somebody that's coming off of addiction, we're able to be able to get them into a sober living facility. The ultimate goal is that we have our own sober living facilities and our own transitional facilities, but that right now, it's just a waiting in prayer with God that that will be provided because we're going to need, to be able to house them. And
Of course,
but right now we partner with other organizations, put them in transitional facilities, and that costs money. So like the sober living facilities, they might charge like $250 a week, and so somebody's got to pay for that,
right?
And until they get up on their feet, get a job, we try to provide that, and again, food. Say they find a job and it might be in construction or something, and they need the tools to get started. We try to help them with that.
Good.
So it's the little things that people forget that you need actually a lot in life to get started. If that means, a car or a bike or, we try to reach out to our donors as much as possible and be like, okay, well, this person's struggling with this. Obviously, we can't tell them, personal information,
right?
Because we want to give out their names and let them know that people are struggling. I don't feel that it's right to even put like a camera in front of their face and be like, "Oh, here's this sad story."
Right.
It's like there's too many people out there, that we're helping, and if we put a camera in front of their face, and I don't want it to just be for show either.
Right.
So it's like we rely on volunteers and people coming in and seeing what we're doing, and then the goal is those volunteers believe in us so much that they're volunteering and able to help out financially if they are, then or even like with items with say our Love Thy Neighbor event.
Mm-hmm.
So we do that every third Friday of the month, and we go out and we hand out these drawstring bags full of supplies, and then also the gospel, right? So we make sure that we're sharing the gospel with them, and then praying with them, and if they don't know Jesus, then we're making sure that before we leave that they know Jesus.
Good.
It's just kind of getting that message out that there is healing from that, because I think the world puts a good message out for people that are in addiction or coming out of prison, that there's almost no healing from that, and that once you're an addict, you're always an addict, or once you're a convict, you're always a convict, and it's just not true. And I'm a living example of that. And I'm sure that once you tell your story, you can let the audience know that you're a living example that that healing is possible.
Yeah, and there's other services, just in case the viewers don't know, they also provide is therapy, and that's been something big because not knowing so much of my story, I ended up meeting Dan and Tiffany, the founders of Heal Outreach, and ended up relapsing and knowing them before they even started it, and then actually needing their services. So, they've actually helped me out with, me going to therapy every single week and not having to have a bill, and provided me with a cell phone and cell phone service, which has been very helpful. And also every Thursday, I don't know if you want to plug this in, only if you did in the beginning, but every Thursday at 6:30 at the main headquarter address, which I don't know that, but we'll probably insert it somewhere in whatever. But yeah, we have a meeting where we talk for about hour and a half and do different studies and go through the 12 steps or talk about what we're going through. And so that's definitely very helpful to have that, because I've been in AA my whole life, and that was definitely very helpful. But you don't hear too much about Jesus. You just hear higher power, and it's really cool that you come here every Thursday, and sometimes we're watching a movie, or we do some worship, or just have a good talk and just see where everyone's at and what we are not doing and the things that we are doing, and maybe we can get better at. So I think that's definitely very important. Yeah. So I don't know where else we want to kind
I
of.
think even with the Thursday night group, you don't even have to be a follower or believer in Jesus. Like
Right.
it's all stages of life are welcome to that group. It's just like some people think that, well, they hear recovery and transformation and they think, well, maybe it's just for addiction. But recovery and transformation can be applied to really any stage in your life. So
Mhm.
if it's like you're recovering from a broken relationship, just say you broke up with somebody that was very toxic,
Right.
or or you know, just abuse. There's a lot of people that have lived through some very traumatic experiences. That's the whole purpose of the group, is that people can come in and find out how to heal emotionally.
No, definitely. You know, I think Heal Outreach is an amazing organization, and hopefully there'll be a lot of people to volunteer their time and even their money. It's definitely made an impact in my life. And me growing up, like when I went to prison from 2012 to 2014. And when I got out, thank God I had somewhere to stay. At my brother's, and but I never had any type of follow up treatment. It was just go to AA, and I'm a chronic relapser, so I would just keep relapsing, and things would just get worse, and I wasn't tackling the root issue. And I think this time around, having that love and support, almost like 24/7. I can call you guys and call other people in meetings every Thursday, even though at the time there wasn't a whole bunch of people. Now I think there's like 6 or 7 people
Yeah.
that are coming, and hopefully that'll just be growing. And then you know, got a bus pass, and slowly, had my rent taken care of and everything. And then now, since I'm enrolled in school, I'm trying to go to school to cut hair and be a barber. I felt like I heard God saying, I want you to do something in ministry and cutting people's hair, and kind of being able to give the homeless a haircut, or people struggling with no money, a free haircut, and freshen them up, and be able to carry the gospel is something that God put on my heart. And to tie it in with the whole food truck, I mean, it's kind of amazing. That would be a perfect opportunity from as soon as I get out of school to be able to work for a couple hours, either prepping or doing something. And again, be able to kind of give back to the community and just move forward until I get my own career and that, kind of set. So it's an amazing thing to actually see Heal Outreach grow and the little baby steps it's taken. And sometimes I look at it, I'm like, man, I don't know if this thing's gonna, really go, but you can tell it is, because it's definitely from God. Like
Yeah.
this thing's growing. And the amazing story today you were telling me on the way over before we're setting up for the podcast. I don't know if you want to even kind of tell that. That was a God moment,
Yeah.
pretty crazy.
Today, I can't go into too much detail
Right. Yeah.
about one thing, but like just got up early. We went and went out to do a blood test for my wife. She's been battling with her disease,
Mhm.
Crohn's disease. So on the way back, I was just like, I want some coffee this morning.
Just a random thought.
Random thought, because I haven't been drinking coffee, so it's even more random, right? Neither is Tiffany. So when I mentioned that, she's like, "Oh, okay." Like she happy about it. So we stopped at this place, literally like right next to our office building almost, right down the street. So we stopped there and we got our coffee, engaged with the barista, spoke with them a little bit. And it's funny that I got a phone call, and as soon as I got the phone call, I kind of walked away outside so that I could talk to that person, which ended up being a God moment there. And just I thought it was super cool. Um, but the really cool thing was in me being able to walk away, Tiffany was able to talk with the barista, who then started asking questions. And, like, where's your office? And
Mm-hmm.
like she then asked like what was the focus of our nonprofit, and like immediately she was interested and I guess had ideas. I didn't get to hear the full conversation or anything, but she had like ideas about how our justice system needs to be reformed. You know, things that society is doing wrong. She was immediately was like, I want to volunteer with you guys. Followed us and went on Facebook, followed us, and then I guess the customer that was sitting at the bar who overheard the conversation, she immediately like chimed in, was like, oh, like I have all this supplies for the homeless, and she's like, I have a ton of it, and I had no idea who to give it to, and so I'm sitting here with all these supplies, and then, that's how God like moves. It's like
Right.
you don't understand, like, just me walk, because if I hadn't gotten that phone call, we probably would have just walked away,
Right.
but because I got the phone call, Tiffany felt, like talking with some people, and that conversation led to, we have somebody that's getting ready to volunteer with us, and then this person who overhears the conversation is like, well, I have all this stuff for the homeless and I had no idea who to give it to, but now I do. And she immediately started following us.
Right.
So just little things like that, just listening to God, moving in faith and walking in the Spirit, and saying, when you get those little cues of, pray for this person or talk to this person or, you know, uh, stop for coffee. Who knows?
Yeah, you don't know what God's going to do, who He's going to bring,
Right.
how anything's going to go.
And when you're walking in the Spirit, you're always looking for those conversations to have with people about Christ. There is healing. It's sad, but most of this world is broken in some
Yep.
point. They've either been in an abusive relationship or alcoholic or addicted to drugs, pills, whatever. So it's like just conveying the message that the healing comes from Jesus Christ, and being able to get them to see that, despite what the world says, that you're an addict or an alcoholic for the rest of your life, or you're a convict for the rest of your life, Jesus says otherwise. Through him, you're a new creation. Your flesh is dead. The old you is dead. I can't say that enough, even about myself. Like, from seeing the me before Christ and actually submitting, because I grew up in church and I knew about God, but I didn't. I had the knowledge of religion, and the relationship is completely different.
Right.
It's,
Huge difference.
it's like once you start gaining that relationship, just there's so much peace, even in some of the craziest moments in our lives, into the prisons. For some people, that would be quite nerve wracking, but for me, it was a very peaceful moment.
And you did 10 years in prison, just in case no one knows. I mean, I did 2, a little over 2, but I mean, that's a long time. I mean, a lot of stuff that goes on people don't know about
Right.
in prison that causes trauma, and a lot of people are not going to want to go back doing 10 years,
Yeah, that's like a whole series or season of episodes
Yeah.
right there talking about the stuff that goes on in prison. And Tiffany's always telling me, like, you could write a book about,
Of course.
all the stuff and all the stories. And same with you, like you could write probably a few books on your life. So it's like just being able to share the stories with people and being able to show them that there's a verse in the Bible that talks about God comforts us in our like trials and tribulations, and our hurt comforts us so that we can use that same experience and be able to comfort other people. So it's all about being able to show the love to other people and conveying that they're our brothers and sisters in Christ. Even if they're different, it doesn't matter. Like whether, you know, they're addicts, they're homeless, you know, it doesn't matter. Like they're
Right.
brothers in Christ, sisters in Christ. We're called to love them. And then there's some people that say like, well, how do you know who to help? Or, you know, what if they're just trying to like con you or scam you, or, you know, out of like stuff? Like that's not up to us to judge their heart. It's just up to us to be available like God called us to be, so that we can love and share love with other people. And then, regardless of their ulterior motive, like we're there. And even if they are trying to scam us, like what is a couple dollars, you know, that
Right.
we've helped them out with, like a meal or something like that. You know, it's like, what does that matter really?
Right.
Like, we've still like planted the seed, you know, we're still sharing love. And I think that eventually, you know, love wins overall. You know,
Mhm.
you go to the end of the Bible, that's what the sacrifice of Jesus Christ was.
Mhm.
So they could set up the ultimate win.
Yeah. And you know, there was two commandments Jesus talked about. It was love your neighbor like yourself, and you know, love God with all your mind, heart, strength, and you know, I feel like Heal Outreach is doing that, and that's why I felt, you know, like that this podcast should definitely be showing, you know, kind of behind the scenes and updates and just different topics. And, you know, I think it's really cool that, you know, we're actually sitting down and doing this because, you know, I started Steps to Freedom and, you know, I wanted to find a way where I could really reach somebody and help them if they needed help. And, you know, and that stuff was doing great. And then obviously the stuff with my relapse happened. And, you know, I felt like a fake Christian. I felt like, you know, that I shouldn't be doing this type of stuff anymore. And so I just stopped it. You know, a lot of people even now don't know the real truth on probably why I stopped making videos. And I felt like a hypocrite. And I'm like, you know, until God tells me to actually follow through and make more videos or partner with somebody or whatever, then I'm just going to stop because I don't want to do any type of damage to whatever organization or to the name of God or Christianity. So that's why I kind of just stopped. But now, you know, just feeling like God's leading me to partner with you guys and kind of use whatever platform to carry the gospel and to help people because you know a lot of people are have the stigma on them that they're evil people and unwanted and you know back in the day your record when you used to go to prison you used to get out and it was like wiped off your record but now with the internet and the way things are you don't pay for your debt you're going to pay for your debt until the day you die unless you have certain connections to the governor or president and you can get that wiped off your record it's going to be hard to find a job it's going to be hard to, you know, rent a place, you know, especially if you're a violent offender or a sex offender. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different reasons why people go to prison. And so, you know, for me, I definitely feel called to, you know, this type of ministry and, my ultimate goal is having some halfway houses that will, you know, create somewhere where they can, you know, live and then I can generate some money that I can live off of, and then just keep putting back into the ministry and growing it. And I think that's your ultimate goal too, is what you're trying to do, and you know, it's actually moving forward, and hopefully one day that will happen with the silver living situation, and you know, hopefully church and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, one step at a time, you know, it's like
Yeah.
God moves us and shows us one step. He doesn't promise us to know the full details of his like leading leadership, right?
Mm-hmm.
So like I like one of the videos on TikTok, social media that it's like you hear the voice of God. The guy's in the video, he's like sitting there washing dishes, and then like the voice of God comes overhead. He's like says his name. He's like, I want you to quit your job, and it's like reality versus what you want or what the world might think should happen. And so like it's like I want you to quit your job, and then I'm going to give you $10,000 a month, and you're going to get this, and you're going to do this, and like the world wants everything planned out, right? And that would be super nice, but the reality is that God will be like, I want you to quit your job, and then you're standing there and like, and then what else?
I was looking at the future.
Yeah, and what else? What do I do after that? It's like when he um, started moving me to quit my job. It's like that sounded crazy, It even still sounds crazy
Right.
to the rest of the world.
Of course.
Even like hardcore Christians,
Right.
they look at me kind of like, "Oh, you're a fanatic. Like you can still work," and it's like, "No, this is what God has told me to do, and this is what we're doing." 'Cause I don't answer to man; I answer to God. He called me to be available full time for Him. That's so that we can do little things like this podcast, so we
Right.
can reach people, outside of our local community. So
Mhm.
like there might be somebody right now that's struggling with addiction to alcoholism, and they just need to know that God is calling them to come out of that, and that
Right.
they actually can be healed from that.
Right.
So not everybody sees that or even knows that they can be healed from that. It's just about getting that message out, and that's why we're going to start doing this. We're going to start having different topics.
Maybe even show like us going out and giving out the different supplies and food.
Mhm.
Especially when the food truck is actually 100% operational. We're actually doing it. We're definitely going to have videos of that type of stuff too,
Yeah.
which is going to be really really cool.
Yeah, we did a back to school event where we partnered with Yeshua 365.
Mhm.
We were able to give out almost, I think we had a total of 225 backpacks.
Oh wow.
And a lot of people, hot dogs, chips, and watermelon, and drinks, and bounce houses, and stuff like that. And we went into a very needy community. It's not like we stayed in a community that has nice cars or anything. We went to a community that most people would not even walk into.
Right.
So set up shop there and just uh, gave back, and we had people that came off the street, and you could tell that they were one guy was uh, intoxicated and probably on something,
Mm-hmm.
and he just came over there, and people thought that he was coming to cause trouble,
Right.
but he immediately just spoke up and was like, I need prayer, I need a man of God that
Needs
will
help.
pray with me and help. And it's like if we weren't there, nobody would have even thought about that guy. They would have just thought, because he has tattoos all over his face and body, and that he's high, and that stay away from him. He looks like Trump.
Right.
But like Jesus says otherwise. He says, leave the 99, go for the one.
Yeah.
And for that day, he was the one.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what the goal is that we're leaving the 99 and we're going for that one. And then God makes an impact in their life, and that we're there to disciple them, and they can go out and do the same thing.
Yeah.
So it's like we're multiplying, we're building the kingdom of God. We're saying, okay, I'm not just sticking within my four walls of my church, and I'm actually going out and discipling like Jesus told us to do.
Yeah.
Make more disciples. And then those disciples make more disciples. And the goal is that the Heal Outreach community begins to expand beyond, city, state, country, and that we can make an impact on the whole world and be able to share the gospel with everybody that that we come in contact with. Because think about, this person knows this person who, I think I don't know the exact stats, but like they say that we have an effect on like 1 million people
Mm-hmm.
that we have no idea, just by one person here and here. Yeah. So like I think if we all would do our part and love and share the gospel
Right.
with each person that we come in contact with, imagine the effect that has on the world. I think too often in Christianity we forget about that aspect of reaching out and discipling. And it's like we're more worried about going in and having an experience with God, and instead of having that process with God and
Right.
having that relationship.
Yeah, because how many churches really go out into the worst parts of the neighborhood and, you know, share the gospel or just try to let people know they're not forgotten or they're not evil people, And it's very important to be going out into those neighborhoods and seeking those people out for the people who want help. Give them the help, connect them with resources to rehabs and sober living and, different detoxes or homeless shelters, or just different ways to provide them a way out to get out of those situations. I think that's definitely important. I just feel like so many churches nowadays is they're turning into a business instead of a real ministry,
Yeah.
and they're just trying to gain followers and build that money up. And I believe that they love God, a lot, but I just feel like they're doing it backwards from the way it was originally supposed to be intended. Jesus went after the people who were sick and suffering. He didn't go after the rich, and he went after the people who really. I'm so happy to partner up with Heal Outreach because I know where the money goes. I know you guys are doing the same work that Jesus would want to be done.
I think too is thinking about like people like you and me, right? So they're pastors that they have the knowledge, they're able to put out a great message, but they're incapable of actually sitting down and being able to counsel somebody that's been through addiction
Mm-hmm.
and been through prison. So it's like I've had actually a couple pastors that even have come up to me, and like one pastor was in the prisons with me. It's like and he heard me speak to a group of about 100 gang leaders,
Oh wow.
and um, we went in, stood right in the middle of a big circle, and just started speaking to them and telling our story and talking to them about Jesus and change. And that pastor was just like blown away. He's like, man, I'm a pastor, and I could have not have even affected any of those guys the way that you did because of your story
Right.
and because of what you've been through. They relate to you because you've been through what they've been through.
Yeah.
So like you can actually like get through to them. And it's like I saw you get through to people there. And like I've had several pastors just say that, like, or even some admit like I have no idea what to say, or I don't know what to do. And I think that's where we need to bridge as an organization. Let other churches know that we are there to be a bridge to the community
Right.
and to the people that are suffering. Because while you as a pastor or a head pastor can put out a great message, but you can't always be there for everyone or even know everyone.
Right.
Let alone be able to guide them through something that you have no real knowledge about, So it's like uh, we're there to, make disciples and train people in the churches
Mm-hmm.
and be able to say, like, okay, this is what we've been through. This is what we go through daily. There's people in the churches that have been through the same stuff you and I have been through, and they just don't speak up because they feel like outcasts, and they're there going through the steps. But like, how much freedom would they have if they could like be able to go through the process and uh, have that relationship with God, be able to help other people,
Right.
like we're trying to do.
I think it's such a good thing that you know, you go, you try to reach people in the streets, you bring them out, you kind of clean them up and give them the resources they need to, you know, hopefully volunteer and kind of grow in like the Heal Outreach family, and then go and, you know, be able to be hired by you guys hopefully in the future, that that could grow and you could provide other jobs, and then they can go minister and, you know, get college degrees and become therapists and all kinds of stuff. I mean, this definitely has potential to grow, but um, won't be able to grow if you don't have enough love and support and
Right.
donations and stuff like that. And I just think it's very important to put that out there and stuff like that. Like, I know a lot of churches ask for money, and everybody's kind of, you know, gets a little nervous when they're talking about, you know, the generosity or, you know, giving tithes and stuff like that. But for, you know, places like Heal Outreach, I mean, you guys only run on donations, so you have to ask and do fundraisers and stuff. So maybe is there any, I don't know if you said in the beginning, any way that donors or future donors that maybe are interested in giving and seeing where the money's going and all that kind of stuff could to call or email or any
Yeah.
numbers or anything?
So first I'll say probably one of the hardest things to do was for us was to set aside, the pride of even asking for help. Right. So that was something that we had to learn going into the nonprofit and like the spaces, we rely on donations, asking for help and asking people for money, knowing like that's there's people out there with money that help people all the time.
Right.
But it's like identifying and reaching those people. It's a hard thing to figure out. I was reading a book uh, that kind of like changed my way of thinking on asking for money, and it's like it's don't put worry on yourself of like having to make the money and ask for all the money. It's pray to God even before like speaking to people about money. It's like pray to God like, hey, this is all God's money,
Right.
and He's gonna move things to where He sees fit. I like to think about it like how the in Jesus parable about uh, the master that gave 1 talent uh, to one person, 5 talents to another, and 10 talents to another. So it's like, and then he came back, and the one that had 1 talent went and hid it, buried it, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the other ones, they they were able to grow their talents, their money. So it's like, for me, how are we growing our talents?
Right.
And utilizing and being accountable for the money that is coming in. So making sure that we're doing the right things and that we're serving the right people. So it's like we're not just wasting the money away.
Right.
But to answer your question, the easiest way, I think, for everybody would be to just visit healoutreach.org. And there's a couple of donate buttons. You just click on there and you can give there. Also, just read the about us, and be able to see, more about what we do and see our goals and our vision for the organization. I think God is really moving us towards some big things, and where just those things happen.
Yeah, and I think it's very important to, you know, show the behind the scenes and the different topics we're going to be coming at each week. You know, today wasn't as entertaining or anything. It was kind of just a setup to introduce what is Heal Outreach, you know, who's involved, kind of what your direction is. And, you know, we urge everybody come down to the address, go on the website, find out when the different events are or the meetings that we have here, and just kind of, you know, come and join us and check it out. And, you know, I hope that the future episodes will be very entertaining as well as informative on
Yes.
certain subjects, whether it be Bible studies or maybe we'll have videos going out and giving out food and, you know, just testimonies and, you know, whole range of different options we can go down. Very excited about it. I think it's going to do fairly well, and we'll just take it one day at a time and see what God has in store.
Talking about this, or even when you started your videos with Steps to Freedom, we were supposed to get together and sit down and do this.
Yeah,
It's
2 years ago.
Sometimes the timing's not right for God, and God's just telling us like, "Hey, wait," and then sometimes we have a little bit more learning to go through, or whatever. But we're sitting down, we're able to do this, and I think going forward, we're going to have, like you said, more topics to discuss, and I think it'll be very educational for some people, and it might even be life changing for others. If there's only one person from this that is helped, then it's still about the one.
And please leave comments down below, interact with us and all that. We want to be here for the community. We want to grow a Heal Outreach community, and not just be just a couple of us. We want to kind of grow that and know that people really do care, and we love you, and just some good people out there.
If you're struggling, send us an email, or you can call. The phone number is 727-251-9123. You can call us, leave a message if nobody answers. It needs to be discussed, or you just want to know more about Jesus Christ and how He's helped us.
Recovery, whatever. We have a lot of different people that have a lot of experience in different avenues and a lot of different connections, and we're always networking and meeting new people and connections to help grow and spread the love and all that kind of stuff. So, all right. Well, I guess that is it. Thank you, everybody. Appreciate everything, and we hope to see you next week.
Yes, thank you.
All right.
Season 2, Episode 1 is a wrap.